Hi, we're back live with Lynn. Great to see you. Hope everybody made it. I know it'll take you a few minutes to get on and get your little comments posted, but be sure and say hi. Let me know you're on there, and if you feel like it, hit those little thumbs because that helps me get this out, and hit the little hearts if you like what's going on. I appreciate it. And let's see, we're going to, what I was asked about was a little more about me, and one of the things I was asked about, let me adjust my phone here, is the paintings that are behind me. And if you want to know what was there last time, go back and look at my other recording. But this is some other paintings that I hung up. These are ones that I've done. And these two were painted for 2 of 3 grandsons who asked for it, asked for the paintings. So the one up at the top right there is for Jalen. Hi, Jalen. And the one right here is for Jaden. He's 13. Oh my gosh, he's so grown. Anyway, and I've got another one out in my art studio that I'm working on for Jackson. So those are my 3 grandsons by my daughter Nisa. And she'll be on here in a little bit too if she isn't already. I'm just looking to see. You see me looking through my bifocals because it's the only way I can read what's going on up here. And it's giving me messages, but I don't know what it's talking about. So let's just go on. Anyway, so some of the things that people have asked me about is more about myself. And so the paintings is one of them. I like to paint. I got started because when my sister came to live with us, when my mother had dementia, I needed to get her out of the house and to do some things, you know. So she and I went to the local college there in Liberal, Kansas, and we started attending a painting class. And she painted and I painted, and I didn't know I could, but I had a really good instructor. Her name's Susan Copus, and she's retired now, but she was awesome, and she really encouraged me and made me get out of my comfort zone and taught me how to do this. And so this is 2 of them. And the other 2 that you saw last time, they were representing of the first 2 books that I wrote. The one that was at the bottom, and you can go back and look at the other video, but the one that was at the bottom was for the Wishing Well Curse, and the one was at the top was for Thorns of Betrayal, and it was abstract representation of the gift that Zeke gave Rose at Christmas. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read the book, go read the book and you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm going to post my link to Amazon at the end because I'm by myself today. Paul is at work, so I'm doing all this on my own, and I've got all my dogs on the floor, so if you see me wiggling around, it's because they're probably licking my feet or something, so I'll try not to do any of that. But if anything happens, just forgive me, because Lord knows what could happen when you're by yourself and you got a bunch of dogs. Anyway, the other thing that, of course, you know I write. That's a given. And then I paint, and then I also knit, and I crochet. Let me put that in there. I crochet and I knit. My girlfriend Wendy Chestnut showed me these hoops, and they're looms actually, and they're all different sizes as I drop them. They're all different sizes, so they make hats and they make all kinds of things. That's the biggest one, and this is a toddler size, and this is the baby size. And so when you use that baby one, you'll make a hat like this. And this is one I made thinking I was going to give it to my daughter's baby, but it didn't turn out to be pink in nature. It turned out to be blue in nature, so I kept it, and someday somebody will get this hat too. And then this is the medium one, and you see I'm working on one now. This is actually for Paul, and he knows it, so I'm not revealing anything. But it's really interesting because what you do is you actually use 2 skeins. So you'll see that there's 2 strings of yarn, and you wrap it around this. Can you see what I'm doing? You wrap it around this, and then you use this instrument and you hook it and you bring it up and over and up and over, and it makes this knit just like if you had the 2 knitting needles. It's a lot easier, and I love it. And I made everybody in the family, pretty near everybody in the family, one for Christmas, and the ones that I haven't made one for, I'm working on it, and you're going to get it soon. So it'll be a late Christmas gift. But anyway, so I knit and I crochet, and I've been doing that since I was literally knee-high to a grasshopper. My grandmother taught me how, and I love it dearly. I make all the kids baby blankets when they have babies, and various other things. I've made other hats, but I really like that loom. So if you want to pick up something you can do, you know, just to keep your hands from being idle, that's a really good project. You can get those at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, all those things. So that's what I do. Okay, so if you have any other questions, post them, and I'll try to answer them. Again, I have to do the bifocals to see what I'm seeing, but and it says that there's people connecting, so I'm just going to keep on going. I wanted to let you know that I've started a readers group, which is like a book club, and it's a group on Facebook. I've posted a link to it on this on my author site, which is where you are now, and there I would like for you to join if you're not already on there. We've got 61 members so far. We're just going to have conversations. We're going to talk about my books. We're going to talk about characters, what you liked, what you didn't like. We're going to talk about upcoming stuff, things that I'm writing, things that I'm thinking about writing. I'll toss out ideas, and I'll ask for your help. And speaking of which, you know that I'm writing this new series that is called the Phantom Horse Bridge series. I'm writing it with Pastor George McVeigh and Robin Dieter, and those are established authors that are amazing, and I'm very privileged to be allowed to come in and do this with them. We're writing that series, but I'm also thinking of another series that I want to start on, and that's one of the ones that I'm going to post a question over in the readers group, and I'm going to ask you to help me by telling me experiences that you've had, because the story, I'm calling it Java Cupid, and it's another contemporary romance, and it's about this coffee cafe. People come into it and they get their cup, and when they get their cup, someone has written on it with a heat sensitive pen, so it eventually shows the message. And this message, it might say something like, "I think I love you." So this person's going to look up, and I'm not saying it's a she, because there's going to be more than one couple that's going to form from this thing. But anyway, so they look at the cup, they see the message, so they look up at the baristas, and they try to figure out who wrote that. So someone makes eye contact with them, and then they think, oh, maybe it was them, because they're kind of noticing me, and I never really noticed them before, and they're going to start up these relationships. Somewhere in the course of the building of the relationship, they're going to notice, they're going to talk about it, and they're going to say, that was really cool how you wrote that on there, and they'll be going, I didn't do that, so I don't know. But they're already, invested in the relationship, and so they'll continue having a relationship. And what it'll turn out being is it's like somebody's in the back that is like the dishwasher and busboy, and he's the one writing it on there, so he's the Java Cupid, but they don't know who it is. And anyway, so over on the reader group, I'm going to ask you if you've ever received a note on a cup or some other way, and what happened. And if your story is intriguing to me, I will put it into one of these books in that series, and if I do, you'll get credit for the idea. And I'll probably, as long as you give me permission, I'm going to use your name as the character. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and I really hope you guys have some good stories to tell me, because everybody's had some kind of weird encounter like this, right? So anyway, that's what's coming up. I promised you that I would do a reading today, and I read to you chapter 1, first scene, last time. And I got to look, I was going to read you the second scene this time, and I got to looking at it, and it was really pretty short. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you 2 scenes. And then that's going to get us all the way through chapter 1. And then the next time we get together, which is going to be next Sunday at 3 o'clock, we're going to do this every Sunday at 3 o'clock. I'll read you that next chapter, so the beginning of that next chapter. So today, you are getting chapter 1, scene 2, and scene 3. And you remember we left off last time with Samantha Gladstone came to Misty Stone Star's shop and their sisters and begged her to come to church because Samantha's going to sing a solo. And of course Misty felt like she'd kind of gotten trapped, but she went for the sake of her sister. So that's where we're starting. I'm getting it up to that page, to that point, because I didn't have it there already. Sorry about that. So I'm sorry, I'm just moving it up, getting it on. Oh, and I wanted to show you, we have a guest. This is Deli. I promised you all to show you one of my dachshunds. The other ones are on the floor, literally. This is Deli. She's 7 pounds. She's almost 2 years old. Her birthday's in April. Say hi, Deli. Hi. Hi, everybody. She's a very pretty little dachshund, and she's my sweetheart. She's my white on rice, and those of you who are from the South knows what that means. Those of you who don't, put a comment on there and ask me, and then I'll let you know. Otherwise, I'll assume you know. All right? Okay, we're going to read now. This is Phantom Readings from the Phantom Horse Bridge series. This is scene 2 and 3. Misty and Samantha walked arm in arm into the Greater Endeavor Outreach Ministries church. Reverend, there goes the heart. Thank you. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt. Reverend Dr. Obadiah Begley greeted them at the double door entrance. Misty squeezed the Apache tears in her left palm as she shook the Reverend's hand with her right. Sam vibrated with fear. She shook Begley's hand so quickly, a one shake and move. Okay, here we go. My tongue's getting all tangled up. A one shake and move on type of thing, and made no eye contact. It would have been amusing if it weren't sad. Esmeralda Begley, the Reverend's wife, hugged them both and whisked Samantha away from Misty to allow for a quick run-through with the choir. Misty moved towards the doors to the sanctuary. Susan, great to see you. So glad you're there. Appreciate you coming. Let's see. Misty moved toward the doors of the sanctuary, a lion's den. Dread didn't come close to describing her feelings towards the huge room. Mrs. Begley's shrill, "Hi, George, good to see you." Mrs. Begley's shrill voice reverberated up the aisles and reached Misty's stifled trance. Then she caught sight of Sam. Misty's feet moved and she entered the large auditorium. Sam glanced up and waved a hand in a circular motion, begging Misty to hurry to the front. She sighed. Oh, she'd so much rather sit in the back where no one could notice her and she could slip out after Sam's song was over and she could wait by the car. But no, Sammy needed her up front where they could make eye contact and Sammy could draw strength from her sister's presence, just like that night. No, Misty refused to think about that night she saw her sister running from the Phantom Horse Bridge. Her hair was tangled with leaves and twigs, her clothes covered in mud and holes. Her eyes were wider than Misty had ever seen them. Sammy screamed and cried for months afterward. Misty would climb into bed with her and repeatedly tell her she was safe. Misty swore she would never, ever let her sister get lost again. There was nothing she could do to distance her thoughts from the guilt that riveted her for years afterwards until she turned 18 and she changed her name from Nancy Gladstone, the girl who let her sister nearly get killed in the woods, to Mystery Stone Star, psychic reader, fortune teller, and mystic healer. Misty, to those who were close to her, was safe, even here in this lion's den. Her little sister would be safe too. Misty squeezed the Apache tear. "Oh, Sammy, hold this." She handed it to Sam, who accepted it. Tears were already forming in Sam's eyes. "Don't do that. You'll mess up your throat," Misty smiled. "You're gonna be great. Just visualize everyone in their underwear." They laughed. Sam squeezed the stone. "What's this?" "It'll protect you while you stand here. Don't worry about it. Just keep it in your hand." Sammy stared at the beautiful shiny black stone. "Can't hurt, right?" She giggled. Misty pursed her lips in an empathetic smile of sorts. "Where do you want me?" "Mrs. Begley said I didn't ask you where they want your family to sit. I asked you where you want me." Sammy smiled. "I'll be standing here. She moved over to the piece of tape on the carpet. "I want you there." She pointed at the pew directly in front of her. "Great. Just left of the pulpit. She'll be able to see every wrinkle, every pore in Begley's judgmental face." She sighed. "All right, that's where I'll be." Misty hugged her sister and sat in the exact spot Sammy had indicated. Nobody was getting her place on this pew. Misty stood with the hymnal in her hand, but she didn't sing. Her dad and her mom had found her and sat to her right. Their presence was soothing whether she wanted to admit it or not. She turned to the next hymn and watched the choir sing. Alexander Caden, the youth pastor and second in command, Misty supposed, returned to the pulpit to speak before Sammy's debut. He stood tall behind the podium. She guessed it had been lowered for the Rev. Misty snorted and then lowered her chin to gain back control. Reverend Obadiah Begley certainly had the Napoleon structure and complex. Caden's charcoal gray suit looked tailored, not off the rack, and his purple tie, well, that purple tie exposed a side of his personality Misty knew would be a rebellious but fun. She'd like to explore that rebellious side. She shook her head. What was she thinking? The ushers gathered on the floor in front of the dais, holding golden plates. Was it time to sacrifice a virgin? Misty recrossed her legs and chuckled. These pews were stiff as a board and as uncomfortable as a buckboard wagon seat. Pastor Caden read a verse from the Bible, and something about building the Lord's house and storing up a surplus. Then the pastor prayed, and he spoke of abundance and multiplication. Misty let his soothing voice tenor wash over her spirit. He spoke in the same chords as her selected wind chimes. She allowed the reverberations to penetrate her auric field. Her limbs relaxed for the first time since she had woke this morning. Who was this youth pastor? She had never met him in person. And he had a Texas accent, which was really cute for such a staunch position in this lion's den. He kept saying y'all and fixin' to, and it was really charming. Samantha floated to her spot on the floor while the youth pastor While the youth pastor quickly trotted off the dais and sat in the front row pew to Misty's far right. She considered this. There was 3 chairs on the dais, one for the reverend, one for the choir director. Why didn't the junior pastor sit in the third? Granted, after the musical portion was complete, Mr. Choir Director left the stage entirely. In Sam's right hand, she held a microphone in a relaxed way down by her waist, with the cord that dropped to the floor and disappeared behind her sister's feet. Her left hand was closed, and Misty knew why. But the 2 fingers and thumbs, Sam fidgeted with the cord. It was like it was bothering her. She knew why Sam did that, too. Misty closed her eyes and pushed out all the white light she could muster to surround her sister in love and strength, courage and breath. She opened her eyes and met Sam's. Her sister glowed with beauty, and it was more than the multicolored spotlight shining on her. A quivering smile lifted the corners of her glossed lips. The organist, Mrs. Begley, began the introduction, and Sammy lifted the mic to her mouth. Deborah Begley, the Reverend's daughter, accompanied on an amplified piano. And then Sammy sang. A vacuum effect sucked everything out of the room except Misty and her little sister. When Sammy began to sing, Misty stopped breathing. Even though it was an ancient hymn, something from their great-grandmother's day, Sammy sang it so sweetly and perfectly it could be presented to the angels on high. It is well, the choir echoed her words. With my soul. Tears swelled in Misty's eyes. She had heard Sammy sing all of her life, but never amplified and with keyboards and a choir behind her. It was an experience Misty would treasure for a long, long time. She wished she had thought to record it on her cell phone, but as per protocol, she had left it in Sammy's Mitsubishi. And now I'm wondering why I didn't use a different car name, because that's hard to say. Sammy held her first note. The words lingered in the balcony. Let's do that again because I said that wrong. Sammy held her last note. The word lingered in the balcony. And the congregation exploded with applause. Misty grinned with her sister's blush and handed her microphone to the member of the choir who had come down from the loft to give her a hug. Misty's eyes darted to the Reverend with sloth-like reflexes. Reverend Dr. Obadiah Begley patted his hands in a mock simile of an applause. He looked like he'd eaten a sour lemon. Misty mused. The assumption could be made that applause was not the norm in this sacred building. She enjoyed the good Reverend's perturbitude, a word Sammy and she had made up as children, more than adult ought to. The good Reverend slowly uncrossed his legs and pushed himself into an erect stance. Making his way to the podium, he flopped an ancient Bible on the wooden surface, intertwined his fingers, and leaned on the solid structure. Well, Henry, you told me your daughter could sing, but I had no idea she sang like an angel. The congregation broke out in applause again, and this time Begley basked in it, as if it were all for him and the clever words he had just uttered. Well, that's the end of the scene. That's the end of that first chapter. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're intrigued. And once we get this published, I hope you'll buy the books and enjoy them very, very much. I want to remind you, hear the dogs barking? I told you it would happen. My newsletter is going to be going out soon. It's going to go out in March. I don't know what day, but it is going to be going out soon. So if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, please do so. You can do that on my website, and I will post that link when we get done here. Also, if you're not connected to my blog, please do that too, because I'll give you lots of updates. We'll do interviews with other authors. Just all kinds of information gets put on there. I'll give you little snippets from different books that I'm working on, this one and some Clone Chaos until we get it published. Speaking of which, Clone Chaos is still scheduled for April 6th. I've talked to my beta readers, and I've talked to my wonderful Grandma Nazi, who, by the way, has a name. Her name is Cindy Rule, and she's awesome. So we're still on target for April 6th. We will do a release for Clone Chaos on April 8th, in which you're going to see George McVeigh interview me about the book, and then there's some other stuff going on, and if you don't tune in to see it, you're going to miss something really fun, because we've got a very interesting thing that's going to happen when we're doing our interview. I'm going to give you a hint. There's going to be a little bit of a time travel connection, communication. Anyway, it's going to be fun. Let's see. We got that lunch party, and I want you to check out my books on Amazon, and I'm going to give you the link to that too. So go over there and see. I've got like 8 books out, something like that. Some of them are short, some are long. The different storylines, you know, from ghost stories to supernatural to not so much. I've got 2 Christmas stories. I've got one that has been called a soft horror, called Rocking Horse. Rocking Horse Shadows. And then, like I said, I've got 2 Christmas ones. So anyway, go over to Amazon, check it out, and join me next Sunday at 3 o'clock for Live with Lynn. Thank you. Bye.